Today I'm going to tell you about free writing. It's a writing method you can use for both fiction and nonfiction and at virtually any stage in your project, which harnesses the forces of chaos and randomness and puts them to use for your creation. Hello, everybody. Failed novelist Nick Stewart here to share some of my favorite tips and tricks for the craft of writing. Free writing is a very underrated tool that I use more and more all the time. Here's the thing. We all want to write, but we have trouble getting around to that most important step in the process, which is writing. Writing just so happens to be the easiest thing to procrastinate on while you're writing. It may not be a best-selling book, but when you free write, you write something. And that sometimes is the highest hurdle you have to cross over. When I have trouble writing, or when I have writer's block, or when I can't stop procrastinating, I've had a lot of success with free writing. So what is it? Free writing is exactly what it sounds like. You write freely with no boundaries, no criticism, no self-editing. You put pen to paper, or you hit the keyboard, and you write whatever comes to mind. It doesn't need to make sense. Just have to write and keep on writing. Some call this process the stream of consciousness writing, and that's true, but it's a little hippy-dippy sounding for my taste, so if you're willing to hear me out, I'm going to put a different spin on it. Imagine each of our brains is a vast climate. And since we all have ADHD and other atypical neurologies, the majority of the time, those climates are going to have hurricanes ravaging the landscape. And I live in the land of tornadoes, so if that's the simile that you prefer, then go for it. Either way, we're going to imagine our thought processes as chaotic and storm-like. But what if we could harness that immense power, that energy, and instead of just watching as the winds just level our homes and our businesses, we put that energy to use in a creative way instead of a destructive way. Take that destructive energy of a storm and build something with it instead. That's what free writing allows us to do. So while we may call it a stream of consciousness, we're not just turning our brains off and allowing the spirits to write for us, like mechanical dictation. We are intentionally engaging with the chaos and randomness that is present in our climate or our minds so that we can harness its power and put it to good use. So how do we do it? Lots of ways. It's a very versatile tool. Whatever you do, you're going to write without stopping. That's the main thing. Even if your thoughts are unconnected or make no sense, you're going to keep writing. You can set a limit of time or space, meaning you can free write for a certain amount of time, or you can aim to fill a certain amount of space, like 1 or 2 pages. But either way, you need that predetermined limit so you know when you're done. And then that way you can give yourself permission to stop and feel accomplished. When starting out, don't go longer than 5 minutes. I wouldn't want you to bite off more than you can chew and get discouraged. So don't think of it as like baby steps, but, just smaller steps to your ultimate goal, which is to write. You can do this with or without prompts. A prompt would be a specific idea or subject you want to write about and explore. This can help if you already know what you want to write about. But you can also start with nothing and see what comes out. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Whether this is an active project or you're trying to discover what your next project's going to be. Let's try it out now. I'm going to pull up my word processor and I'm just going to write. I am writing for my tutorial and I don't think it's very good yet, but maybe it will get better. I am thinking of a story of a man it as his father did. Okay. Now, as you've probably guessed, it doesn't need to be good. The point of free writing is not to create a masterpiece, but to start building it. You have to start somewhere. But a lot of what I did was just stating random facts about what was going on while I was writing it. But then I made something up. Writing randomly broke down enough of my creative barriers to come up with an idea. And it may not have been a great idea, but it was an idea nonetheless. A man who lives in a tree and he must defend it. Most ideas you come up with are not going to be your magnum opus. That's just a fact you have to accept. We have to walk a fine line between quantitative output and qualitative output. For instance, we can produce a lot of writing and we can produce great writing. It's very rare for those things to overlap. For example, we can produce a lot of content. Maybe it's just all right. In that case, it doesn't really matter how much we write if none of it's great or even good. On the other hand, we could write just 100 words a year that are absolutely amazing. But if it's only 100 words a year, is anyone going to care? To find the balance between these two things, we have to find ways to kickstart our creativity, even when we feel like we have nothing to offer. We have to practice producing quantity so that we have content that we can refine and turn into great quality content. If free writing gets you an idea, good or bad, then that's one more idea than you had before. It might be worth 5 minutes of your time to explore and see if you can expound on it. Back to our example of the man living in the tree, which I guess I'm married to now because that's what I wrote for the video. Maybe we could continue to free write about why a man would live in a tree. Homelessness is obviously the most obvious reason, but what if it's not financial at all? Let's come up with some twists. What if he chose to live in the tree? That's more interesting. Why would he need to defend his tree? Maybe a government organization wants to build a highway where it stands. That can make for a compelling story. You can continue to free write about these ideas and think about what makes this character who he is and what motivates him. You can also free write about problems you can anticipate with the story. Think about things that might not work and how you could resolve those problems. Again, the point is not to randomly assemble a masterpiece just by vomiting words out on the page. The point is to harness those forces of chaos and random thoughts to your benefit. There's no shortage of random ideas swirling around in the hurricane of your mind. So take one of those ideas and just work on it. This exercise can also calm your mind down and focus you. It's hard to just sit down and just start working, but you don't have to put that much pressure on yourself. Just start with some free writing, and maybe after your exercise is done, you have an idea, and you can work with that, and you can figure out what you want to do. It can also get you into the practice of writing. You may wonder how this practice would help you with well thought out intentional writing, which is your ultimate goal. But you might be surprised. Sometimes just getting into the habit of writing anything for 5 minutes a day can help you when you want to start doing the hard work of writing an actual, intentional piece. But more than that, for me, free writing is another way of thinking. We all have different ways of thinking. We all have different methods to calm our storms so we can think more clearly and try to get some work done. Some people pace. Some people throw a ball, go on a walk, play games on your phone, play with your cat. Those are all valid ways of thinking through things. In fact, I do all of those things when I need to think at one time or another. But none of those things actually ends with words on the page, and that's their deficiency as a way of thinking. Free writing does end with words on a page, and that sounds like progress to me. So not only is it a way of thinking, but it's also a great way to organize your thoughts as you think. You can record them however they naturally come to you when you're thinking about a given topic. This is an especially good practice for podcasters or teachers or pastors, anyone who has to give a presentation at work, basically. By picking a topic and free writing about it, you give yourself actual data about how your brain processes this topic in real time. And if you're stuck on what to teach or how exactly to present something, a page of free writing could be a good place to start, because you'll have what your mind considers the most important aspects of that thing, the things that first come to it, and in the order that they come to it. And that's what you really want to give people. You want to give people your unique thoughts and ideas and perspectives. Free writing can also break your inner censor and allow yourself to, you got it, write freely. Think about how we qualify our ideas before we give them to people. Bad example. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I don't know what I'm talking about, but am I stupid? Or, we want to alleviate the pressure on our idea by lowering people's expectations of it so that they're pleasantly surprised. We feel like we're giving our ideas their best chance by doing that. If it turns out to be a bad idea, well, you said bad example. You warned everyone it was a bad idea. But if it's a good idea, you had a good idea, and you can pat yourself on the back for that. Remember, the results of your free writing can go straight in the trash when you're done if you don't think it's good. But if it fails to spark any creativity for you, you don't have to keep it. But oftentimes you might see that the good ideas aren't that far below the surface, as long as you can numb your defensive side and get it to go to sleep long enough for you to get some work done. But like I mentioned before, free writing isn't just for new ideas. Here's how I use free writing in my process. I'm currently writing a soon-to-be-failed novel, and I like to outline each individual chapter before I begin. So at each new chapter, my process begins with free writing. I write out what I want to happen in the chapter, the motivations of each chapter, how it works toward my ultimate ending, and what kind of obstacles might be innate to the storyline. I free write about how to connect the themes of the A and B storyline and what kind of symbolism I could use. I can suggest anything to myself without fear because none of this has to be used or ever even seen again by anyone else. I'm just thinking through things on the page. Once I've worked out a lot of these ideas, I move on to the outline, and by then I already have a lot of the work done, but sometimes the outline can feel incomplete, or there could be an error in it, like some kind of logical issue, and then I can go back to free writing to mine new ideas and fill it out. You could even use it for editing and rewriting. Have you come across a problem in your second draft and it has you stumped? Free write about it and see if a solution comes through. In my very failed novel, Black Threads, I actually added a huge story on my second or third draft because I was free writing about what it was missing and how I could fill it out and make it better, and I came up with something that actually worked really well. And so that was a very late addition to the story. Our brains are constantly working through these problems. We're just having trouble bringing to the surface what they're working on so we can actually use it. Free writing helps bring it out. So maybe you just need a break from the problem or the project as a whole. If you take a break and distract yourself with some free writing, the way some people might throw a ball against the wall, maybe you can return to the project with a fresh perspective and a fresh state of mind and really tackle it anew. And one last thing, try to stay positive. I know the point is just to write no matter what, and it doesn't really matter what you write, but it might not help you to just spend 5 minutes writing about what a stupid idea this is, or how bad of a writer you are, or how you don't know anything about this thing that you're writing about. Anything like that. Focus on what works, what could be cool about your idea, and so forth. Just stay positive. So whether you're trying to come up with new ideas or refine ideas already in process, free writing is an indispensable item in your writer's toolkit. And the best part about it, there's no preparation. You don't have to have anything ready ahead of time. You don't need any particular goal. You just grab your pen or open your word processor and you get to it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. The point is you're doing something. So ask yourself this: how are you going to progress with your writing today if you don't do this. It's worth a try. Set a timer for 5 minutes and see what happens. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe to this channel if you want to receive more tips and tricks about the craft of writing, and give it a like if you got something out of this. I also want to hear about whether or not this helped you, so feel free to leave me a comment below and tell me about your experience free writing, and I want to hear, if this helped anyone. So you can also buy my novel at the link below, and I appreciate everyone watching. Till next time, thanks, guys.